Hello everybody, this is the second episode of this little series I'm doing and building out a little game. In this episode, I think we're going to try to dive a little deeper into this. So before I was using these get access functions, and these are actually the old method, and probably the smart thing to do would be to use the more modernized version. And another thing that was kind of broken in the player movement was gravity. So the biggest thing being that I realized I didn't actually use this velocity vector anywhere. So I'm just going to go ahead and plop that in right here. So we have that now. Also, another quick note, this ground check is an empty transform. It's this object. I noticed that the ground check was actually all the way up here, so we do want to make sure that ground check is at the player's feet. So continuing on, we've got this ground check figured out now, but we actually have to set up a ground for us to check whether we're standing on or not. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to go ahead, go to 3D object and build a plane. Scale it up to a 10 by 10. So 10, 10. We don't want Y. I keep forgetting that Y is actually in the vertical direction here. If I play, I should fall. There we go, and I hit it. So probably the next thing we want to do is figure out how to do jumping. And this is our player movement script. The first thing that we probably want to do is figure out how high the player is going to jump. Jump height, and we can just set it to 1.2 for now. Go from there. And inside our update function here, we want to add another check here. So we're going to look for some input, and we're going to look for the button. Get button down. Jump button. Of course, we can change that within Unity, and is grounded because we don't want to double jump, of course. If we're pressing the jump button and we're grounded, we were going to go velocity y, mathf dot square root, and then we're going to multiply our jump height by -2. And then bring gravity in here. Let's give this a run and see what happens. Uh-oh. Oh, it looks like we made an error. I'm used to coding in Python, so excuse my silliness here, but yes, in C++ we do need to have these semicolons. Alright, there's our gravity, the reference, and moment of truth. Of course, nothing happens. So let's debug this. Okay, so it was a really silly mistake. So the first thing I tried out here to fix this was to actually shrink this character controller down to actually match the cylinder. All I did was reduce the height to 3. And of course, once I reduced that height, I also put the character position down to -1.5. That didn't fix things. I was still getting this grounded equals false issue. The next thing I did was actually went back into this plane here and set the layer to ground. So of course we just didn't have anything set to ground, and that's why we had an issue. So if we go ahead and run this, there we go. We do say grounded is true, and if we jump, we'll see we'll jump in action here. There you go. So the next thing I want to get done is to actually modernize the mouse looking thing. So before I do that, I'm going to get rid of this debug message here and go back this way. So this is the old method of doing things, and how we want to do it now is we actually want to get rid of this delta time bit. Whoa, look at that. So obviously sensitivity is way too high now because of that small change, but look at this. I'm barely moving my mouse, maybe like 2 F. This is still crazy sensitive. That's really weird. the main camera, and there we go. Mouse look. We were actually in the wrong file, I think. Or it didn't update, weirdly enough. So let's go ahead and change that to 2, and that should fix things. Oh, there we go. That's way more manageable. It's a nice frame rate too. Interaction. So in this game, it's first person. The main game loop is going to be kind of exploring a little dungeon area, maybe some kind of combat, and then looting, a little bit of crafting. Super simple dungeon crawler type thing. So the way that these interactions are usually done, not combat, but let's say like opening a chest, is, I think online I read something about called a raycast. So what that is, it's kind of like a laser pointer that you're shooting out from your character a certain distance, and if it collides with an interactable object, then you can press E or whatever you assigned, whatever key you assigned, to actually make the interaction happen. So the way that's done is to first of all create a new script. I do want to have a little prompt that's going to get the player to tell the player what they have to press actually. So that's the first thing we're going to do, is a string interaction prompt, and we will go get this. We want to have a boolean, so not every object can be interacted with, so we're going to have a boolean can interact game object interactor. This is something that we'll add in later. And then lastly, an on interact. So right, so any object that implements this class, the I interactable class. So the raycast itself, we're gonna have to go over to the mouse looks bit here, and we want to open up and add a little section here. So this is gonna be a float, and we want to be close enough to the object, so there's got to be some kind of range. Just like with the ground mask, we're going to put a mask on objects that are interactable. So layer mask, and we're going to call it interactable mask. After that, we need to add a check somewhere. In this check, we're going to be checking for if something is interactable. So it's not returning anything. We're going to go void check for interactable, and we're going to actually build the raycast here. So this ray is going to come out. It's a new, we're building it from the ray class, and it's a new object. We're going to get the position of the layer. It's going to be going forward, and can't forget this semicolon here. We've got our ray. If it's hitting something at the range that we specified, that object has this interactable mask thing. Like collider dot try to get, oops. Where's my, there we go. Interactable. Complaining about here. Does not contain a definition for can interact yet. Yeah, of course, we just haven't implemented that bit. Or we have, but we just called it something else. So, that's what we're gonna call it. The proper name. Is it because it's not public? This is public. That's odd. I guess I'll have to come back to that in a second. So what if I do this public? We have can interact on track. We'll come back to that later. We have our debug log. So now we want to actually listen for an interaction. So I'm just gonna, so if input.get key down code e, interactable.on interact player body game object. We're going to call it from here at the very bottom, this new function. So check for interactable. We want to actually build something that's we want to add this interactable mask thing to some test object. So create scripting script. This is an object test interactable, and we want to tag on our interactable thing here. This is where they're actually putting the public stuff. So we can get rid of these, but we want to grab these three things. Go to our test interactable, drop this here. This is where we go public string interaction prompt, and we want to actually assign it to something. So we go like this to assign it. It's the true. Leave that the way it is and not have multiple cases. So what does the guide say it can? Okay, after a bunch of debugging, I think I figured it out. So not much has changed in the code. Well, something really important did change. The first thing is these functions. I originally had them like this, like lowercase, but that is a big no-no. These are actual functions which we need to be calling, and you need to write them like this. So we don't need this anymore. The other issue that I ran into is, so I just created this cube. I actually didn't set up an interactable layer. And the way you do that is just go to project settings, type in tags here, and then just set up a new layer. And whatever you want interactable, you're just going to set the layer to interactable like that. So these two should be interactable. Man, I've said that many times. And the last thing that was really important is I actually didn't set anything to my interactable mask pretty stupidly. So this layer mask that I created, you have to actually go in there and set that to interactable. So now if I go in game, gravity's working, bouncing around. So see, once I get into range, it starts updating. If I were to actually go and hit E, it doesn't work. What a surprise. Okay, this one was a really quick and simple fix. Everything was actually working as is. It's just that the prints for what we were looking at were just firing off so quickly that we couldn't actually see interacted. So when I do walk up to this cube and hit E, we do see that it's interacted. And now that I have a character that can move, look around, interact with things, and jump, I want to get a game state manager. I think I'm going to leave like combat and kind of more complex interactions for later. And let's call this game state manager. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is create an enumerable. Oops, and call it just game state. And we got to decide what kind of game states we're going to be in. Okay, so within this, we want to set the state. So the way to do that is we need to come up with a function. So we're just going to call it public set state, public void, because it's returning nothing, set state, and this time following the guide, I'm not going to miss that capital there. Game state, new state. So if new state is the same as the current game state, I'm going to create a new variable for that. Public game state current state is equal to get private set game state nominal. Okay, so if the new state is equal to our current state, we're just going to do nothing. We're going to return. Otherwise, we'll continue. We're going to go to our game state and find out what the old state is. Set that to our current state. And set the current state to new one. Boom. After that, we can add a little function here. State, not a function, a line. State changed. Invoke. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Invoke. On state changed. Invoke old state and new. And this on state changed, we have to define that as well, of course. So public, this is an event that we're checking. So we have our, it's made up of two game states. Game state. On state changed, there we go. So when that's changed, I'm gonna invoke this for old state and our new state stored. Okay, so when we change our game state, we will have this little printout in the console. Next, we need to do stuff with instances. So, of course, as we change game states, we might need to change instances, for example, for a cutscene, if we're going into a different instance for that, or a dialogue scene or whatever. So we're going to add another function here called awake. Okay. And in this function, we're going to check, of course, we need to add another variable. Instance at private set. Okay. So if this instance is not equal to null and the instance not equal to this, setting the new instance, don't onload. Dang. Okay. If we're in a dialogue scene, we don't want to be able to move our character around or, you know, swing our sword or whatever. We just want to progress through the actual dialogue. And it wouldn't make sense to have different buttons for each thing, so I think we want to keep it all in the same interact key. There should only be one game state at a time, which makes sense. You don't want to have a cutscene and a dialogue, or a cutscene and nominal at the same time. Okay, I just realized we also need to add a game object here at the, and we're going to move it to the top, and we're going to call this Game Manager. Okay, so I just added a little line here as well, just if we're not in the proper game state, which is nominal, we want to actually be not able to look around, so I added that little bit in. So the next thing to do here is to add a toggling pause. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to open this guy up and add a function, public void toggle pause. So in here, we want to check if what the current state is, and if it's nominal, then we're going to set the state to something else. Game state paused. So for now, to keep things simple, I'm going to simply turn the time scale to 0 and unlock the cursor. We're going to unlock the cursor, and then we're going to make it visible. And if we are already in a pause state, we're going to come out of it. So if pause state, if the state is paused, then we're going to set the state. I think actually just okay to grab and copy paste this. We're going to set the state to nominal. Turn time back on. We're going to lock this, and we're going to boom. So we have this guy going on. Now we need to get this update script back and actually add the pause button. So let's go ahead and try to test this out. Issues. Around, we can interact with this object, and then if I hit this, there we go. Paused. And we're back to business. We're obviously going to need a couple different levels. So I think the way that we're going to handle that is with called the scene loader. So we're going to start loading, move the game state into a loading game state, and then change the game state back to nominal once we've loaded everything and everything's all rendered out. We're going to call this scene loader. Open this up. Okay, within scene loader, this stuff for now. Okay. So in the guide it says we want to use async loading, so the game doesn't hard freeze on the loading screen, and it loads in the background frame by frame. Sounds good to me. What did I do here? Okay. So where are we at now? So we have this function. We also need a function to actually load the scene. Go. So that's going to call this guy. Okay, so within the async load, grab our game state manager instance set state. So we're going to grab this function from game state manager, and we're going to set it to loading. Okay, there's the operation, and we're going to have a while loop here. And we're going to feed this along to a loading bar later, and it'll go from 0 to 1 or whatever it is. But for now, we'll just add a debug thing. There we go. It's going to print out the percentage of the loading. And once that's done, so this will let the game know that we are finished loading. Okay, and within this, we again need another one of these awake functions. It's the same thing as what we have here, pretty much. So I'll just grab this, put it in right there. So let's test it out, and to do that we're going to need to come up with a second scene. We don't want to mess around with all this extra stuff, so let's go with the basic one. So here's our second scene. Now we're going to go to file, and then build settings within file. That looks right, and we're going to add these scenes to the scene list. So, okay, it looks like they're both in there now. We've got our sample scene and our test scene. Okay, and then to trigger the scene load, we're going to have to run something. And if you interact with this cube, it would be like, maybe this would be like walking into the portal of something. So let's go ahead and add this to onInteract. Go. So we should see a couple things here. once we interact with this, we should see the interacted logged. Then it's going to change the game state. So we load into our first scene correctly. So we're here. Let's go to our console. Oh, and that's our, of course, that's our pause. So if we go here, run around, interact, nothing should happen. But if we walk up to the cube, interact, oh, nothing's happening. I wonder what's going on. Let's debug. This was another stupid mistake. I didn't add the scene loader. When I go up here, there we go. Okay, and of course we can't do anything because we don't have the player object in here or anything. But the point is that we are able to change scenes. Okay, so yep, just to reiterate, I just went to the game manager here, hit add component, and the scene loader script, I just went ahead and added it in. All right, well, I've been working on this for a little bit now. I think it's time to go ahead and end off this episode. I think we got a couple good things done. We were able to add jumping, we fixed the gravity, we fixed the movement and the player looking, and we added interaction and screen management. I think the next set of things we're going to do is probably finish adding all these different game states. So that's what we're going to be working on next. So thanks for following me along, and see you next time.